right, good morning, interwebs, podcast listeners, everybody who's participating in this these days, and welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. As always, I'm your host, Adam Smith, with Just the Tips Coaching. And with me, almost as always, is another one of our coaches and our marketing director, Jen Waymore. Good morning, Jen. And we have a special guest for you guys today, a repeat guest, which is unique for us. And on top of it, one of our clients, Stephanie Frinsko, and I'm going to intentionally mispronounce that throughout the entire broadcast. Just because, if you have too many consonants in your name, that's the way that it goes. Good morning, Stephanie. I know I did, but still, can we buy you a consonant, please? Because just having one seems inappropriate. Frinskowski, that would be interesting. All right. We're obviously getting way off track for our normal broadcast here. But Stephanie, we've obviously got a ton of experience with you on a number of levels. We've done the show now a couple of times. We talk to you once a week for your weekly coaching session. You're a real estate agent here in the Denver metro area. We've done some transactional work together with our mortgage company, pinging clients back and forth, that kind of thing. So I'm not going to get into great detail about all the dirty little secrets that we know about you. But I do want to put a bit of a disclaimer out there before we really get into the broadcast about our technological issues and Adam's flaws when it comes to them. You guys that are watching right now are seeing this show broadcast on Facebook Live as a change to Jen's Facebook page, not mine. Now, Jen has tagged all of us in it and certainly has tagged our company in it, etc. But I'm actually in Facebook jail. Apparently, Facebook thinks I posted something inappropriate a week ago tomorrow. So I got to spend a week under lock and key with Mr. Zuckerberg as the warden. And it may be a improvement for the show. Jen's audience probably is more fun than ours, than mine. And so we will reproduce this in syndication later in the week when I am out of jail. And Jen, make note of that because we'll have to download the video and use it for those purposes in the same manner that we would get it to any of our guests anyway. So for those of you watching, do bear with us here because we are doing things a little differently than we normally would, but we're going to carry on, as it were. So on that note, let's get right into the relatively normal content of what our show would be about. And Stephanie, give us some insight. Tell our audience about you, what you do, how long you've been doing it, and don't spare any of the really juicy details because we want to hear about the bees. and be a rancher. Right. Okay. And I think we would all admit that that's a full-time job. I do want to circle back to one thing that circumnavigates you being a coaching client here at Just the Tips. Really, it's Jen that you're listening to and following her instructions, because I don't know anything. She's the smart one. So, all right, let's just make that clear for our audience. So actually, it's kind of funny because, Steph, you've been through a good portion of this now. And we've covered contact database and contact management and an awful lot of social media stuff. And we're getting into the video. We've certainly covered some of the video modules in our coaching. And it's funny because while a lot of it has seemed, from my perspective, a lot of it has seemed where you appear overwhelmed. And I do think that that's a common reaction because it is a robust amount of content, there's no question. It doesn't seem that any of it has really bothered you, that you're not uncomfortable with a lot of goofy photos of you out on social media, and it doesn't bother you doing video like the monthly Won't You Meet My Neighbor that you do. You do a open broadcast system, kind of like what we're doing here, and you introduce a local business to your community every month. So it doesn't seem to me that any of it is really outside of your comfort zone, which we get a lot of feedback on from a number of other coaching clients and potential coaching clients. So how do you think that that is so different for you than for most? I mean, why are you so comfortable with this stuff when most aren't? Or am I misreading it? Are you grossly uncomfortable and you're just pushing through it anyway? And let everybody else see. Okay. All right. That's good stuff. So just for our audience's sake, and I'm going to keep this brief because I do want this to be more about you than anything else. Of the half or so of this program that you've gotten through with us, where have you seen some significant value? What things have you really latched onto? What in the Just the Tips coaching program really translates to Stephanie's business?
That's kind of a little bit of a loaded question, because there's been a ton of stuff that I've learned from the both of you over the last almost 8 months now, and I think it's letting everybody know that I'm not just the realtor, but I also have this whole other life that I like to bring that out so everybody can see it. I like to, introducing people to local businesses that I go to, showing people my bees, showing people me running around in my pajamas chasing chickens at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's that's been the nice part, of being able to show that other side of me that most agents don't do. It's just, here's me, I'm professional, my hair is done up, I'm wearing my heels, I'm wearing my nice suit or whatever. And here's, like I said, here's me running around with my bathrobe and pajamas chasing chickens.
So you're a real person.
Yeah.
Not just a real estate machine.
Right.
Okay. So you share those trials and tribulations. So in addition to being a real estate agent in the Denver metro area, again with Coldwell Banker, and being a rancher with ducks and geese and chicks better scurry. Oh no, wait, I'm singing from Oklahoma, not horses and bees and cats and chickens. Let's not forget to mention that you're also a single parent, and that you take care of your father. The three of you live out on the ranch together. So in addition to doing all this stuff, we've seen some photos, some video, and had some conversations about how they'll do things to derail ranch operations that you have to then go in and clean up and fix. And of course, Jen, forgive me, I think there was also something about Stephanie
rupturing a water line at her own hand.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that then had
That
to
was
be
last week.
repaired. That was last week. Yeah, so Stephanie does a lot. We know just from our perspective, she spends an hour a week with us on her coaching program. She's doing a robust amount of real estate business. She has an enormous amount of work to do with her ranch out near Hudson. And by the way, for those of you not familiar, that's near the Wildlife Animal Sanctuary, recently made famous by... come on, Joe Tiger.
Joe Exotic, Tiger King.
The Tiger King, because a lot of the cats that came from his facility are now here nestled up near Stephanie's home ranch farm out in Hudson. All right, so Steph, tell us about your business. We know, obviously, that you are a real person, that you do run around screaming in your bathrobe, that you are being chased by bees. Did we mention that Steph is allergic to bees?
We did not mention that. I was going to throw that out there.
Steph is a beekeeper and is so motivated about doing good for the world and good for the bees. Oh, and by the way, the honey is amazing. I have a jar, well, half a jar now in my kitchen. And she's allergic to bees and still doing all of this. All right. Well, the good news is that Stephanie's not allergic to real estate. But Steph, tell us about your real estate practice, because knowing where you live, knowing that I'm referring clients to you that want to live out on the west side of town and at the south end of town, you're covering a huge area. Do you do any driving? Do you spend any time in the car?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, not much. No. Well, living 30 miles, 35 miles outside of town. I'm really good at like listening to books or listening to music. I mean, I'm sure people see me dancing down the highways. I'm driving all the time. It's just me. I'm used to just getting in the car and going, where it took me 15, 20 minutes to get to Evergreen, it's now an hour. But getting to come home to this is much more preferable than having to, live in the city anymore. I wanted peace and quiet. I wanted to see the stars at night. I wanted to play with my bees in the comfort of my pajamas if I wanted to, But real estate wise, I mean, nothing has really changed other than it just takes me a little bit longer to get somewhere. I have to plan a little bit more than I used to. I'm still doing the same thing I've always done. It's just, just getting up and going. That's really, it's really it. So.
Okay, so that makes sense. I mean, it's not an enormous ordeal. And I know that, obviously, well, Jen and I know just about everything about you, and we do know that you're spending a ton of time in the car. For our audience, once a month, I have a mobile car detailer come to my office and clean everybody's car, everybody that works for me at both Just the Tips Coaching and the Core Finance Group. And it happened to coincide last month with you being in our office for a coaching session. So we had them do your car as well. And we started talking about how many miles are on your car. And it was something like triple the national average. Yeah. Like 35,000 miles a year you're driving. So we know that you're spending a ton of time in the car. But I want for our audience, and certainly anybody who might have an interest in buying or selling a home with you, to understand that this is somebody who's really dedicated to doing this. If you want to buy a house in Golden, and you'd have to be familiar with the Denver area for this to make sense, while Stephanie lives in Hudson, then she's going to cover an awful lot of ground to help you out. And this is really how she deals with her client base. So you can expect that level of commitment from her, even if you want to buy a home in Hudson. And if you do that, then go visit the Tigers. But yeah, I certainly want to make sure that I'm bridging that gap between why I'm asking you all these goofball questions about you being allergic to bees or you spending so much time in your car, and how that translates to the fact that you're really committed to everything you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. And I know that's true from our perspective and what you're doing with us in your coaching, because even though a lot of it has seemed overwhelming to you, to the point where we see that you're being overwhelmed.
Your eyes are like this.
Yeah,
right?
you just push on through. You do the work. It's really impressive stuff. So yeah, we really, really like that. So, Steph, we're obviously kind of still right in the throes of this pandemic. We know early on that there were a lot of bumps and changes and hurdles and kind of a roller coaster ride of what went on in the real estate business as far as you guys being deemed non-essential and then being essential and then all the ancillary businesses being non-essential, etc. How big of an impact have the last 3 months or so had on you?
It was the beginning of it was okay. I mean, it was, like you said, it was kind of weird because, one day we were essential, one day we weren't. Everything was so up in the air. We didn't know what to do from one day to the next. But then when they kind of put a halt on, open houses and stuff like that, that gave me a good time to focus on the things that you were teaching, working on my social media, getting all of my my email address, signatures, getting every single site that I have it's synonymous the whole way across the board. So in a way it was a good thing because, and I mean, I wish it would have happened at a different time of year, like more in the winter time when things just kind of slowed down a little bit. But I guess I'm kind of thankful that it happened because it forced me to stop and do that stuff that I needed to do. And granted, I had someone who did a lot of it for me, but then again, it made me I was more aware of the things that I should have been taking care of. And now, thanks to you and Jen, you've made me realize that this is how it should be. This is how the things that you should be focusing on as well. Besides the other things I do, writing thank you notes and making phone calls and stuff like that. So that was a nice little push to get those things taken care of. And it's funny now that we're allowed to go out and show homes again, it's like the floodgates have opened, and it's kind of like, all right, now I've got to work 60 hours doing real estate, but then I have to come home and work 60 hours here too. So I'm learning to juggle a lot better than I ever have in my entire life. Nicholas is back here somewhere. I don't know what he's doing, but I'm at least getting work and the farm going, thank you for a 13-year-old who can make his own breakfast.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even mention the homeschooling you had to do over the course of the last semester.
Thanks for reminding me. I forgot.
Have you had any sleep this year? A little bit. Okay. All right. So there are a couple of things that I want to address that Stephanie mentioned, and I certainly want our audience to understand that. One, now Stephanie had started through our coaching program last year, so this wasn't really as big an impact for her as it is for a lot of you that are watching or listening. But a lot of your brethren, Stephanie, didn't really work over the pandemic era. They didn't take the time to put new systems in place, to get their social media assets up to speed, to work on their contact database, to pick up the phone and call people. Man, we were all so desperate to talk to and see new people that it is just amazing to me. So yeah, I do want you to understand that you're also, in a relatively small group in that sense of all salespeople, and real estate agents certainly, but car salespeople suffered, insurance, financial planning, mortgage lenders. A lot of people thought it was a reasonable period to kind of dial back the volume of work that they were doing because they just didn't have a choice by default. And instead, a handful of you, Stephanie included, for those of you listening, kind of ramped it up instead. Let's use this time wisely. Let's make sure that when we're able to return to normal, whatever that looks like, that I'm 100 yards down the track from the majority of my brethren, my competition, as it were. The other thing, Stephanie, that I kind of would like you to expand on a little bit is you essentially do have a business social media VA of sorts. And obviously, Jen and I have met her. We've included her on a number of these coaching sessions when we were talking about Facebook business pages and groups and LinkedIn and Instagram business, etc. But tell us a little more about Robin and your interactions with her and what kind of workload she picks up and how that helped you.
Robin, I'm forever grateful for her. She's the one who does my fabulous email signature. She does a lot of my posts for Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, more of the business stuff, which kind of frees me up to do all of my dorky posts. But she's, it was just because of the both of you that I really got her to handle all of those, like I don't want to say the boring posts, but the like what's happening here, what's happening there. She focuses on that stuff. And then, everybody else sees the posts of my bees, my horse, the goofy things of me standing beside an excavator because I punctured a water line.
While trying to repair a water line.
Yeah, while trying to repair one, I went ahead and punctured another one. Smooth move on my part. Anywho, so her handling that business stuff lets me handle the fun posts, the ones where people get to see the real me and not just the made up person kind of thing.
So she helped with some photo work, some logo work, synonymizing your social media assets, doing a lot of the business posting, your business page, LinkedIn, Twitter, those kinds of things.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, for those of you watching and listening, we do have other coaching clients that kind of take on letting their VA do the personal stuff too. Now, don't get me wrong, the content has to be originated by you. It's got to be you filming you being chased around by a bunch of bees. It's got to be you in your robe doing whatever it is you're doing outside at 5 a.m. to, take care of the ranch, etc. But a lot of our coaching clients will take that content, push it off to their VA, and then let the VA come up with, the locations, the timestamps, the date stamps, the tags, the hashtags, so on and so forth. It's just that you've kind of taken on this personal, this is who I really am role all on your own.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong, I think one of the big benefits to that, and correct me if I'm wrong versus what some of our other coaching clients have seen, is that you've really learned how to do this stuff. You know how to do all these things in Facebook, in Insta, in LinkedIn, in Twitter, and somebody who's sloughing it all off to the VA, and you may do that someday,
Right.
But in the interim, you have the working knowledge of how to do it all on your own if you wanted, or had to.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's good. And yeah, then you get to focus on the 90% of who you are, not the 10% of what you do. And yeah, I don't think it's any secret that you're in real estate. I think we all know, and I'll bet your entire audience does at this point. The cool part is that now we know you keep bees and that
Right.
you're allergic to them. And that when you go to repair a water line, you do more damage than good. These kinds of things. So yeah, I think it is really, really cool what you've adopted using different sources, different individuals to kind of farm out some of that work. And obviously when we get into the team structure modules of our coaching, you'll get a much greater handle on what that looks like in its entirety and what work you should be having somebody else do and where you should be focused solely on your lead generation, on you being you. All right. Very cool. So those were the couple of things I really wanted our audience to know about what you said there, because you kind of glossed over a couple of really important pieces of the Stephanie puzzle and how you're building your business through not just us, but through what you've been doing over the last couple of few years, regardless.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I thought you were going to ask me another question.
Oh, I thought that was Jen gearing up to ask you a question. I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt.
So we all thought we were.
I'm so bad about interrupting Jen. I really want to, bite my tongue here. And I know the two of you have become good friends as well. So I know that there aren't a whole lot of secrets between the two of you. There's probably stuff that the two of you know about each other that I don't know. Hey,
possible.
it's fine. Absolutely. I'm not jealous. Maybe a little,
He's jealous.
I'm a little
Yeah.
jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say I think the really fun part is how much Steph has embraced that 90% of who she is, and really run with it. Like the bees, but even Lily the horse, like we really ran with that on your Instagram. And you have such a fun personality for video that I think you're such a great example for other people in real estate, in sales in general, for how to embrace the cheesiness. And, it makes you more approachable. It makes you more human. It's, you make mistakes and puncture water lines too. Like, instead of putting this fake perfection out there. So I think that's my favorite part. It's just you embrace really who you are.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, because I think a lot of people are just kind of scared to let everyone else see that side of them. And I'm like, that's the real me. I make mistakes just like everybody else does, sometimes a little bit worse than others. However, that's me. And I guess I kind of learned, and thanks to you guys, is that, nobody's perfect, and that I have to let people see that side of me, because they are. I mean, every one of my clients has seen me probably walk into a door jam or trip up the steps or, throw my phone across the room. It's because we're all human. We all make mistakes, but everybody else is trying to be so perfect all the time. I think that's more stressful than just being a dork or just being yourself or just, like, I don't know. I just think everybody else needs to realize that we all have a home life as well. We're not just sitting in the office making phone calls or writing contracts or having coffee or drinks or what everybody thinks we do when we're off. So I think that's the nice part that I've learned through coaching with you and Adam. And I hope to continue making a complete fool of myself, and I hope everybody gets to enjoy it just as much as I do half the time. So,
well, and social media kind of organically lends, I know it wasn't the intent when the social media world developed, of seeing everything through rose-colored glasses. Yeah. That, we don't, I had a fight with my wife. I don't post that on Facebook.
Right.
I got to go to some cool event. I was at a concert. I met a celebrity. I had a successful closing, whatever. Those are the things that we're posting on Facebook. We're not really doing anything that's, mistakes, missteps, negative things, those kinds of things, well, other than all of the politics and everything else that's going on in the world this year. But we don't really focus it on being a real human being just by default. I don't think people are really doing it intentionally, but we really use social media for the rest of the world to think that we all have these perfect lives, and we don't. None of us do. There isn't a single soul on the planet that has reached perfection. And social media kind of lends itself to allowing us to put out into the world that we've all reached perfection. So it's kind of a weird medium that way. But yeah, you're absolutely right that it is amazing and fantastic that you've embraced social media in an arena that lets people know you are real, you are authentic, you make mistakes. I forgot to unmute Stephanie's microphone when we started this particular broadcast, and a bunch of people commented that they couldn't hear you. My bad. I make mistakes too. I don't walk into doors as often as Stephanie, but nonetheless, it happens.
I know.
So, Stephanie, because people are wondering and they're going to ask, for those that are watching and not catching this on the podcast, tell us about the gold and platinum album hanging behind you. Albums. We want to know.
It's a good old Rat, and then the Winger.
Rat and Winger. Okay. And so how did you come to own a gold and a platinum album from the glorious 80s hair band days?
Because everybody likes the big hair days.
I love it. Absolutely. I'm sure I caught some Quiet Riot while on the treadmill this morning.
I like it. Actually, my I guess boyfriend, fiance was Nate Winger, and Kip is his younger brother. So that's how those ended up being here. He did sing on that album, and he did sing on the Rat album behind me, and quite a few others. He sang with Kiss, though they're not labeled on any of the records. It was kind of like their little deal. So they sang on, what's that song from God McGabe Rock and Roll, or so. I can't even think of the title of the song right now, but he sang on that song. Was in the music booth with Gene Simmons. I'm like, that would be the coolest thing ever. Sang with Stevie Nicks, sang with so many people, and this is what I have left now. It's just the memories of him doing that. So it's
very cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. He's missed more than he knows, and more than he will ever know.
I know that's touchy, and I intentionally wanted to push you to be a little uncomfortable, a little authentic. But on top of all of this, the ranch, your business, schooling at home, being a single parent, taking care of your father, going through our program, you've essentially done it all as a recent widow.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, we never really got married. We were going to, but we never got to that point. So, yeah, it's the last 15 months were probably the hardest that I've ever done, and I ended up having one of the best years of real estate ever, going through all of that mess, and I have no clue how I did it. My name was on the board, and I was like, really? I'm like, how in the world did I possibly accomplish that with everything else? Spending hours at the hospital, trying to move, trying to do everything else. That whole month of July and August last year was a complete blur for me. But I did it. That's the funny thing is I don't know how people can, it's hard to express afterwards. Like, I had so much going on, but then I still got everything done and more than I needed to. And then when you sit down and you start slowing down, it's like, how did I do that before? I guess that's kind of my trigger, is the more I have going on, the better off I am. When I'm slow, that's when I make more mistakes. How crazy is that? And I think a lot of people are like that. When we have all of this stuff, all these spinning plates, we can make them keep going. But then when we're slow, it's like they start dropping everywhere. And that's when we should be picking them up more and spinning them more and getting more things going. I don't know how I did it. I honestly don't. So
I hope you're half as impressed with you as Jen and I guarantee you our audience are with you.
Yeah.
I know that's not true. I know you don't see you the way that we see you, but yeah, we are really impressed with everything that you've done in the last year. It is mind-boggling what you've persevered through, only to become more successful than you were.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Yeah. Every day a little bit more, so we're getting there.
You're doing great. And I know we've run a little long, and I can see Jen telling me that it doesn't matter. Thank you. Steph.
It's Steph.
It's Steph. Steph, there are going to be people in this audience that want to reach out to you, probably that even would want to work with you. Give us the highlights on how to reach you. Well,
I always tell everybody the easiest and quickest way to get in touch with me is text message. My phone number 303-918-5917. That's usually the quickest way. Email sfrensko@gmail.com. Yeah, go ahead and try to spell that last name.
It's on the broadcast, I promise.
It's going in the comments. They don't even have to try.
But those are the easiest way, or if you want to just do the old fashioned thing and call me, I'll probably answer the phone, if you're lucky. Those are the quickest ways to get in touch with me. And then, if you bump into me anywhere around and about, I'm the dork with the camera tripping into doors. So that's me.
Right. And maybe with your beekeeper suit on.
If they're lucky. That's for social distancing.
All right. That's for special occasions. Excellent. New Year's Eve, a wedding.
Exactly.
Whatever. I would wear that to a wedding just because I think it would be hilarious. My wife would not agree. And before we go, I better admit that as well, because I would normally be very, very good about exhibiting some kind of obnoxious affection for my lovely bride had I not been thrown into Facebook jail. It is our wedding anniversary, Liz, if you're watching. 17 years. I love you very much. I'm sorry I'm in Facebook jail and I can't post something obnoxious on your Facebook page. All right, so for the rest of you, thank you for tuning in. Whether you're watching live or in syndication or you're catching this on the podcast, we certainly appreciate you listening, watching, tuning in. If you have more questions about the show or for Stephanie, or you want to be a guest on the show, you want to catch previous episodes of the show, if you want to get a copy of my book, Just the Tips, any and all of that, use that text code scrolling at the bottom of your screen. You can text TIPS to 63566 and it'll ping you back all that stuff. Steph, Jen, unless you guys want to add to it, I'm going to run the extra and we'll sign off.
All right.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Steph. We'll talk to you guys in just a sec. The rest of you, we'll see you next week.